He's taken a lot of incoming fire. He's taken a lot of punishment. And it's not new for him. He fought for this country when Stephen Harper wanted to build firewalls around Alberta, right? He fought for Canada in the toughest environment in Canadian politics, namely Quebec, right? And we have got to turn this leadership issue around. We've got to say there are many kinds of leader. There are many kinds of good leader. And we've got to remember our history as liberals. Man, not everybody in this room is liberal, so I'm speaking now directly to liberals. We don't take lessons from any party about leadership. We are proud of the leadership. Example about this leadership thing. This I hope will appeal to some of you who are getting on in years like me. Mike Pearson. Who in this room remembers Mike Pearson? Okay, enough of you do. Remember, this is the point. Remember what it was like to have Mike Pearson as leader between 1965 and 1968. There wasn't a day in which people said, the guy can't give a speech, he lisps, his French is terrible, and he's a bumbler. Do you remember that? Because that's the truth of what it was like to have Mike Pearson as your Prime Minister between 1963 and 1968. And there isn't a school child in Canada who does not know now that he was one of the best leaders we've ever had in this country. Okay, so get ourselves straight in our mind about what leadership is, this country is lost, and we cannot allow Stephen Harper to define what good and strong leadership is. Mike Pearson is my idea of a leader. One of the things that made Mike Pearson a great leader is he knew how to create teams. He wasn't afraid to work with big people. Big, strong, tough, ambitious people. One of the things that made Mike Pearson a great leader in that period is that cabinet of his. Do you remember that? There were about 7 people in that cabinet who could have been good prime ministers of Canada. Mike Pearson was the kind of big guy who thought, bring him on, bring him in, get him in. And because he brought people in like Pierre Trudeau, this party then had a tradition of leadership that went right through the second half of the 20th century. Because Mike Pearson was a big leader. A leader who wasn't afraid of big people beside him. Marked contrast with Stephen Harper. The only good guy that Stephen Harper has in that cabinet is David Emerson, who was a liberal. And as you know, David's not running. David's had enough. He's had enough of the one-man band. Okay? So let's get out on the hustings and tell a story about leadership. I've worked with this guy. He's ready to do the job. He would have one of the best and most talented cabinets in the country. Okay? And we've got to understand, we've got to take that message out to our fellow citizens and turn this leadership thing around. Because I'm sick and tired of hearing this stuff about weak leadership. Give me a break with this stuff. We've got to treat it with the contempt it deserves. Let me say one final thing about leadership, because then I'm going to sit down. You've seen a deputy leader of the party getting a little steamed up. I'm steamed on this issue. I'm angry on this issue. I'll tell you a final thing about leadership. I'll tell you a story. When I was a child, and maybe this happened to you, my dad said to me, let's go down to the railroad track, because there was a railroad track in the little Quebec town where I spent time when I was a child. The railway track went right through the middle of the town. He said the thing about a railway track and a railway train, you have to know, I was about 7, is that you can hear the train before you can see it. And so he put his ear to the rail, and I heard the train coming before I could see it. And I found that incredibly mysterious, that you could hear a train before you could see it. That has always been, through my whole adult life, the metaphor for leadership. A great leader is someone who hears the train before anybody else can see it. Okay? The test of leadership is whether you can hear that train coming down the track. And the Liberal Party of Canada can hear the train coming down the track. The train of climate change. the train of irreversible environmental damage, the train of economic decline in our country unless we green this economy, right? Stéphane Dion, the Liberal team, are not asking the question, how do we win the next election? We're asking the question, how do we get Canada ready so we don't get flattened by that train? Okay? That's what leadership is about. It's about whether you can hear the train before you can see it. And that's the story we have to tell. It's a contrast between short-sighted, get through October 14th leadership, or leadership that actually does prepare us for the 21st century. Keep those comparisons in mind. Keep that image of leadership in mind, and I think we can win this on the 14th of October. But the key thing, we got to get heard in the House of Commons.